My name's Doug.
And my name's Ashley. Welcome to Inspire Me Bracelets.
We started Inspire Me Bracelets with a simple mission to spread inspiration with simple reminders that when you looked at your wrist, it would remind you of that message throughout your day.
I remember when we were first coming up with the concept of Inspire Me Bracelets, it really wasn't about bracelets. It was more just about changing the way we were thinking. So we would actually just put things around the house, like little notes on the mirrors, little notes in the kitchen, in the bathroom. Sometimes we would even write it on our wrist just to remember throughout the day just those positive scriptures, thoughts, just anything to focus on to kind of change your thought patterns.
Came across a Bible verse that said, tie these promises on your wrist. So we said, you know what if we can tie these positive messages, instead of posting them and only being able to see them when we're in the bathroom, what if we put them on our wrist and we're able to see these messages everywhere we go? So when we first came up with the different collections, we weren't making these collections for other people, we were making them for ourselves. So we had 3 different collections. The first collection was a love letter collection. I wanted to make a collection that were little love notes that she could wear on her wrist for her to see throughout the day.
We also came up for a collection for our little ones. We have a 12-year-old, a 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And we wanted to give them something to wear throughout the day on their wrists. That way our words are on their wrists instead of what the world is telling them. So we would come up with sayings like, she believed she could, so she did, believe in yourself as much as I do, beautiful girl, you're made to do great things. So that way it's us speaking to them the truths that we want them to know, and opposed to the world speaking to them. Obviously the basis of our company is about wearing inspiration on your wrist. So we thought, what better inspiration to wear on your wrist than God's promises for you?
There's so many amazing verses for whatever you're going through. One of my favorite verses is I know the plans I have for you. Another one is I can do all things through Christ. That was actually one of the first bracelets that we ever made, that I made for myself, that I still have to this day, is I can do all things through Christ. So our faith collection is definitely one of our most powerful ones. There are a lot of people that have different type of anxieties, whether it's kids in school or in work, that be anxious for nothing but let your prayers be known is a very powerful one. Be strong and courageous, for I am with you is something, definitely an empowering type of a promise to put on your wrist. From there, we both quit our day jobs and we packed up all of our kids. We packed all of our bracelets in the car, we packed up a card table, and we decided we were going to spend the summer spreading inspiration around the country. What we did is we went to every music festival we could find. We went from Texas to Rhode Island to Virginia to Michigan, and we went to all these music festivals. And what we found is that people were in search of something that could give them inspiration.
So during that trip, we kind of met our mission in the fact that we were finding that customers were actually connecting to the bracelet, not because they were cute and they were stylish, but for the fact that they were relating to what was on the bracelet.
There's so many different stories that come from the different sayings that are engraved on our bracelets. Some of the stories were about celebrations. People had birthdays, anniversaries. They were celebrating, just remembering the music festivals that they were at. Some people had stories like they were graduating from college, graduating from high school, and they were giving their children. One of my favorite sayings is the believe in yourself as much as I do, or the
Some of them were going through a little bit more difficult challenges. We had met a young girl that had just lost her mother, and she came up and wanted to buy an Always My Mother bracelet just to remind her. Just so her mom could stay with her.
I never remember when she bought the bracelet. She bought it and she came back to us like 3 hours later. So she came back and she said she had never felt her mom, and she'd been searching for a way to reconnect to her mom. And she had gotten the bracelet and she gave both of us a hug, and it was like that moment that we were like, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give people that inspiration and happiness just from a simple bracelet and a message that comes across that bracelet. From there, we continued all across the country. I remember we went from the hottest place in the world, and it was Midland, Texas, in the middle of the desert, and we're continuing to wipe the dust from the desert blowing in on all of our bracelets, to we were up in New Hampshire at a music festival in New Hampshire, and this was in July, the end of July, and I remember the temperature had dropped down to 38 degrees, and we didn't have a sweatshirt, we didn't have sleeping bags or anything, and all of us are cuddled into one blanket on an air mattress in a tent. And I remember thinking, why are we doing this? Like, we were in the middle of nowhere, freezing, feeling like hippies traveling from one place to another place. And I realized that this is what a mission feels like. This is what a purpose feels like, is I felt like we had found our purpose at that time. And that purpose was to give people inspiration and to give people hope, to give people a positive message no matter what their story was. Whether it was a celebration, whether it was a tragedy, whether it was just a life journey of enjoying the journey which you're on and choosing joy. You have all these messages that people can have that will encourage them on their walk. After we got back from this, we were super energized. We had just traveled over 5,000 miles all across the country, met thousands of people, and we just got back and were ready to rock and roll, but we really didn't know what that next step was for us because all the summer music festivals were over. So we got back and we wanted to take it now from just the back of our car into a business. So the first thing we did is we tried to get help because we knew we couldn't do it on ourselves. So we went to the most talented people we knew, which was our family, and we asked them to come join on to our mission of spreading this inspiration. I never forget the first big idea that came from that was when my brother and sister came over and said, hey, I think I have a way to get us into the Grammys bag.
Yeah. And we were like super excited because that put us from just selling from the back of our car to then we were showing up on fashion magazines, and it went from selling hand to hand to being able to sell all around the world.
After the Grammys, we decided to take a leap into the retail scene, and we opened our first location on that Christmas of 2017. And from that, it just exploded. We went from 1 location to 12 locations to 29 locations within 2 years. All the kiosks we made ourselves, so our backyard turned into a construction site of building 29 kiosks all in our backyard. And they took over our entire downstairs of our house. We had to move out all the couches and TVs, and our entire downstairs of our house was just turned into an inventory for all of our bracelets. And I remember looking at each other and thinking, how are we going to ever sell all of these bracelets? Yeah. But we did. In 2019, we had just finished our Christmas season of going from 12 to 29 locations, and we decided that at that time, it was time for us to move out of our living room and our house, because at that time our house was inventory, building, everything like that, and moved into our first corporate headquarters.
It's crazy to think that it's only been 3 years, and that little idea that we had sitting on a park bench to just inspire our family has now grown not only nationwide but worldwide, inspiring people to love, to have a little hope, to have a little faith, and really just accomplish our mission of just spreading a little joy around the world. Thank you for joining the Inspiration Nation, and remember, the best is yet to come.